Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see so many people here. When I was first discussing this event with Carlo, I said, well, Carlo, wouldn't it be a great idea if we had a kind of technology speed dating event where we got the kind of traditional license applicants and the technology providers together in a room and they could do something sweet together. And hopefully this will be an opportunity for you to make some connections that you haven't made before and come up with some new ideas. So I'm not going to talk about anything revolutionary in this talk. There's not going to be lots of pretty pictures of new technology applications or things. For those of you who have made a license application before, there are some things that have changed. There are people in the room who hopefully will make a license application but who have also never made one before, in which case there's a lot for you to be aware of. And this hopefully will help you get the basics, but we're always available to give you advice if you need some help. There are also people in industry who can consult for you and have put license applications together before and can tell you how to do it in the best way as well. So there are various consultants around. Maybe stick your hand in the air if you can do that for someone and provide that service. I'm sure there's a few. You're being shy. There you go. So there are some. Just pay attention to what I'm telling you here. There's a lot more information on the internet, and come and ask us questions. So in terms of timeline, we've got a slightly longer duration round than normal, 120 days. Application closing date is 21st of November. So that's the key date for you to bear in mind. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Don't leave everything to the last minute is my recommendation to you. And we have a number of maps available on the internet which will show you the areas that are on offer. So the map on the right-hand side, it's the pink areas basically. So as Gunther said, massive area, 6-ish times the size of Wales. So there's a lot within those areas that you can go after. So full information on the website. And we also have a page on licensing rounds on our website which gives you information on all the different aspects. So there's some general information on the round, but the key part in there is how to apply. And there are a number of guidance documents within there. So there's some general guidance on technical aspects, guidance on financial aspects, and then links to various bits of supporting information as well. So various maps and bits of data, which I'll come to in a little bit. And then if you look on the bottom right-hand side, there's some email addresses and phone numbers there. So those are the first points of contact if you have any queries. What we've introduced now is a new flexible license called the Innovate license, which basically allows you to say, okay, what's my ideal work program for a particular license, and what kind of duration and phasing do I need for that? In the past, you had to basically shoehorn your work program into a fixed duration. So we have initial terms within licenses, so that's the expiration period, which are flexible, and we also have flexible second terms, so that's for field development planning. You can enter a license into its field development planning stage, and that might be appropriate where there is a discovery and you just want to do the FDP planning process before you actually go ahead with it. So there may be no exploration necessary, but as Gunther said, we are encouraging people to look at all of the opportunities within a particular area and try and tie them together, so prospectivity plus discoveries. For the initial term, we've also got phasing of a license. So in its basic form, there's a phase A, which allows you to do studies work. There's a phase B, which allows you to acquire new seismic data, and many of these areas do require newer seismic data sets. And then there's a phase C, which essentially allows you to drill an exploration or appraisal well. And the rentals and the tests that we apply to you on your application vary depending on where you are entering into that license. So they become more onerous as your work program becomes more onerous, essentially. So licenses can contain up to 10 blocks, which is a pretty big area. So there could be lots and lots of opportunities in a 10-block area that you could tie together, and you need to think about cluster concepts. Our expectation for this round is that nobody will require more than 6 years for that initial term period. For the second term, you can also choose whether you have a 4-year duration or a 6-year duration, which might be applicable to something like a heavy oil scenario where you've got a tight reservoir. So in terms of how we assess applications, they're all laid down under the Hydrocarbons Licensing Directive. Essentially, we'll look at your technical capability, both subsurface and above ground. We'll look at your financial viability and capacity. We'll look at what kind of work program are you proposing. Do you have a track record under existing or expired licenses? And we'll also take into account any other relevant considerations. So you need to make sure that your application addresses all of these issues here. So you need to basically have shown that you have considered the subsurface in enough detail and done enough original work for you to be able to make a valid application. So the assessment process often involves you coming to an interview where we will clarify these matters, and the interviews will be held in the first quarter of next year. And then bottom line, there is a fee for the application, and then license rentals and levies are due annually. In terms of how to make the application, we've got an online system called Larry, which has been around for a number of rounds now. There's separate guidance available for this. And your applications, as Gunther mentioned, will be assessed according to a mark scheme. So the mark scheme's been around for a long time. It's published. You can look at it on the website. There are some new elements. If you have made applications before, be aware of the new elements that have been added. So hydrocarbon systems analysis. So we're looking at play analysis, essentially, so the regional work that you've done. We're looking at your risk and resource evaluation and how you've done it. And then key to this event is the technology plan. So if you refer to stewardship expectation number 8, that will give you a good idea of what we want in terms of a technology plan. For your license application, you have to relate your technology plan to the work on the license itself. And then there are also phase timing marks. So essentially, the faster the work that you're doing is, the more marks you'll get. So straight to second term or a well commitment in a phase C will earn more marks than if you're just proposing to do some studies work. And then there are a few other adjustments to weightings on the mark scheme. So the mark scheme is summarized in a sheet that we've got on our website. So that's the image on the right-hand side there. And the categories are basically geotechnical database used, and there's another stewardship expectation you need to be aware of, number 3, where we're trying to encourage companies to use the best available optimal data sets. Technical evaluation already performed. What's your work program, and what are you proposing? Technology application, the above ground evaluation that you've done. So have you done any economics? How does it relate to the existing infrastructure? What about the phasing and the timing and how everything relates to each other? And then obviously, as I've mentioned, the phase timing rewarding these faster work programs. So we have a number of data sets that we've published in support of the round, and you can access lots of these through our interactive maps on our website. There's an undeveloped discoveries map. So each blob on that map on the left-hand side is an undeveloped discovery sitting in open acreage. There are relinquishment reports, so previous operators have published their view at relinquishment of the acreage. And then on the right-hand side, there's a whole set of various data packages. Lots of them are related to regional studies, but they're also digital sets of information, so digital well information that you can use and you can pull into your analysis. In terms of the undeveloped discovery data, this is available via CDA. So you can go onto the CDA website, that's ukoilandgasdata.com. Anyone can register, anyone can go to the OGA tab and download the data. We do also have some data sets available on memory sticks, so if you want to come to us and grab one of those, then you can do. That's a little bit faster than downloading it if you're living in the middle of the countryside, for example. And each of these, well, for a number of these undeveloped discoveries, we've put together montages which summarize the state of our knowledge about them. So there's a general summary slide, there's a history of the discovery and the wells that were drilled on it. There's a summary of the static situation on that particular discovery, and then if available, there's also dynamic data available. So that will hopefully give you the basics that will get your head around what these undeveloped discoveries are, and then you can start thinking about where the potential lies. And we've also, for the first time in a longer running project, published some maps for the Central North Sea and the Moray Firth, so regional maps, which can help you if you're looking at a particular opportunity, put that in the context of all the geology and the structure and the discoveries that have been made around it. So we have a number of different maps that we've published, stratigraphic charts, petroleum systems charts, and again, these are all available to openly download. And also, come to us if you want a copy on hard media. So in summary, application deadline, 21st of November. There's a deep inventory of undeveloped discoveries, prospects, and there are also some potential redevelopments. There's a list of ceased fields on our website. You might want to look at that. We're encouraging applicants to think holistically about how to exploit the resources in an area in the most optimal fashion. We've published supporting data sets to industry for the first time, so hopefully this will get many of you up to speed very quickly and allow you to put together good quality applications and allow you to do extra additional work on top of that. And we're encouraging the application of the best data and technologies, which is why we're having this event here. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to ask now or grab me at some point during the day or at any other time. Thank you.
Paul Lindop for Subsurface. Nick, given your stress there on the wider holistic view, how are you finding encouraging wider viewing AMIs to be formed? Because traditionally people will come with a prospect and get some friends around it. If you're wanting that holistic view, what's the new tactic to encourage that?
Yes, we are encouraging areas to be formed where, I guess, you may have a number of different operators in an area, some of which will be known because they hold acreage already, so you can start to form groups of them. But there also may be new applicants who are interested in areas. So, I mean, one thing we could do is we could start to say, perhaps after award, well, do you want to club together and start to do something? I guess the other thing is, if you put into your application, we're willing to do regional work together with other operators in the area, then we can, I guess, put that into the evaluation. You will get some element of credit for it in your application itself, and then after the awards have been made and we know what the license situation is, we can then start to bring those companies together to allow them to do that regional work. The other thing we've got is, for example, 21st Century Roadmap project, which allows us to do regional work collaboratively between operators. We've been trying to encourage companies to come together, put relatively small amounts of money on the table, and then push forward with studies work that can be shared in a particular area. And these are relatively small amounts that we're asking to be contributed to these projects, so £20,000 maximum. And then if you put that into a larger pot, you can actually get a lot of value from it. So that's another way, and those projects we will basically tender out openly to industry. So there are service providers that could pick up that work and do it.
Any more questions? Can I ask one? You've shown that we have a number of discoveries, existing discoveries. What technologies are you going to include, are we going to include as OGA, in the portfolio technologies to look at discoveries that were already made that were not successfully developed in the past, as part of the application criteria?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think also you need to look at why particular discoveries have not been pushed through to development. Sometimes it's because the sunk costs for a particular operator have become so high that they've just decided to back out, and with someone else coming in and taking a different approach, they could actually develop it straight off. And for some of these discoveries, it doesn't necessarily require any further appraisal. It just needs someone to go in and drill a producing well and tie it back to existing infrastructure. So it can be quite a simple thing. But for others, there are definitely technical challenges that need to be solved. So whether it's, heavy oil and how to extract it more efficiently, or do you need to frack reservoirs in a certain way and perhaps transfer some onshore technology? Is it something to do with actually imaging the container that you have and you know, determining how big it is. And sometimes that's a seismic imaging problem. Sometimes it's a problem to do with how a structure has actually been mapped, as I think we'll see later. So I think we need to look at all aspects, you know, bring the technology in and integrate it into the subsurface, and to also, you know, what's happened in terms of the dynamics of offices and how things have been developed in their history.
Thank you. Any other question? So I thank you, Nick, very much.